The dashboard camera showed nothing unusual at first. Just another dark Pennsylvania highway in the middle of the night. A patrol vehicle, flashing red and blue lights reflecting across wet pavement, and one state trooper stepping out of his cruiser to approach a car that had been driving erratically moments earlier. But what nobody watching that footage understood yet was that within the next few minutes, an ordinary traffic stop would turn into one of the most devastating nights that community had ever experienced. Because Trooper Corporal Timothy O'Connor was about to walk toward danger one final time. At first, the call sounded routine. Reports had come in about a suspicious vehicle drifting unpredictably along the highway late at night, the kind of call troopers across America respond to every single day. No hostage situation. No armed standoff. No major emergency. Just another driver on another dark road in another quiet American town. And maybe that is exactly what makes stories like this feel so terrifyingly real, because nobody knew how quickly everything was about to change. For Trooper O'Connor, calls like this were nothing new. He was experienced, respected, and known for carrying himself with professionalism under pressure. Fellow officers described someone dependable, the kind of trooper others trusted immediately in difficult situations. Outside the uniform, he was also a husband, a father, and a man deeply connected to his community. But on that highway, in the darkness beside a stopped vehicle, none of those things could protect him from what was waiting ahead. The patrol lights illuminated the side of the road while passing headlights briefly cut through the darkness around him. O'Connor stepped carefully toward the vehicle exactly as officers are trained to do. Calm, focused, controlled. From the outside, the stop still looked completely ordinary, and yet somewhere inside that vehicle, something felt wrong in a way nobody around him could fully see yet. That is one of the hardest realities about police work. Officers often have only seconds to recognize danger before it reaches them. There are no warning signs announcing which traffic stop will become deadly. No way to know whether the driver ahead is frightened, intoxicated, desperate, or violent. Every approach to a vehicle carries uncertainty, and on that particular night in Pennsylvania, uncertainty was quietly turning into something far worse. Then suddenly, the silence exploded into chaos. Gunfire shattered the stillness of the highway without warning. Within seconds, the routine stop transformed into a nightmare scene, illuminated by flashing patrol lights and confusion. Emergency radio traffic immediately erupted as nearby officers realized one of their own had been critically wounded. And somewhere on that dark roadside, fellow troopers were now racing against time to save a man who had spent his career protecting strangers. As backup units rushed toward the highway, panic spread through the radio communications. Officers arriving at the scene found confusion, urgency, and fear colliding all at once. The same highway that looked peaceful only moments earlier now felt completely different. Sirens echoed through the darkness while troopers desperately tried to stabilize their wounded brother beside the patrol vehicle. What made the situation even more emotional was the fact that Timothy O'Connor represented exactly the kind of officer communities depend on every day without fully realizing it. The officers who patrol highways at night. The ones responding while everyone else sleeps. The ones walking toward unknown vehicles on isolated roads, never knowing what waits inside. Most people never think about how dangerous those moments truly are, until a story like this forces them to. At the hospital, fellow troopers gathered in silence, waiting for updates. Some stood outside under flashing emergency lights, unable to speak. Others remained glued to their radios, hoping to hear something positive. In law enforcement, moments like these spread through departments quickly because every officer understands the terrifying truth behind them. If it could happen during a routine traffic stop, it could happen to anyone wearing the uniform. Meanwhile, the community itself began hearing the news. social media filled with prayers and messages of support, while local residents waited desperately for updates about the trooper who had been shot protecting the public. Across Pennsylvania, people who had never met Timothy O'Connor suddenly found themselves emotionally connected to a man whose job required him to place himself in danger for complete strangers every single night. As the hours passed, one question consumed everyone involved. Would he survive? Troopers continued gathering outside the hospital while family members faced the kind of fear no family should ever experience. Behind the scenes, doctors fought desperately to save him, and throughout the night, officers who had spent years working beside him struggled to process how an ordinary stop on an ordinary highway had become something so catastrophic. Stories like this affect people so deeply because they expose a reality most Americans rarely see firsthand. Behind every traffic stop is an officer making countless split-second decisions in situations filled with uncertainty. While most drivers simply see flashing lights in the mirror, officers see unknown risks approaching them every time they step out of their vehicles. And despite that danger, they continue showing up night after night because they believe protecting others matters more than their own comfort or safety. The emotional weight surrounding the case only grew heavier as more details about O'Connor's life spread throughout the community. He was not just another name in a headline. He was a father, a husband, a respected trooper, a man who had dedicated his life to service, knowing full well the dangers attached to the badge he wore. And for many people watching the story unfold, that realization transformed the tragedy into something painfully personal. Outside police departments across the region, American flags lowered while officers honored a man they viewed not simply as a co-worker, but as a brother. Communities placed flowers beside patrol vehicles. Blue lights glowed across neighborhoods. And somewhere beneath all the grief existed a shared understanding among law enforcement officers everywhere. Timothy O'Connor died doing exactly what society asks officers to do every day, confronting uncertainty so ordinary people do not have to. Then finally, after hours of desperate hope and fear, the devastating truth became impossible to avoid. Trooper Corporal Timothy O'Connor died from the injuries he suffered during the traffic stop. The same routine call that began like countless others ended with a family losing a husband and father, a department losing one of its own, and an entire community mourning a man who gave his life in service to complete strangers. Long after the patrol lights faded from that Pennsylvania highway, one truth remained painfully clear. There are still men and women across America willing to step into danger every single night, knowing they may never return home. Timothy O'Connor walked toward a vehicle on a dark roadside because that was his duty. He wore the badge understanding the risks that came with it. And while the tragedy left enormous grief behind, it also reminded countless Americans of something easy to forget. Real heroism is often quiet, routine, and invisible right up until the moment sacrifice changes everything forever.